Life is wonder, and if you've ever wondered, asking yourself some deep questions such as, who am I? Are we real? What is reality? The universe, time, consciousness, and God are just some of the concepts that make us reason. By explaining some of these concepts, we try to bring up scientific knowledge as the purest explanation to what we can provide. However, we cannot. There are things in this world that we cannot simply explain due to some limiting factors by being human alone. Hence, philosophical stance come its way. These arguments are what we call philosophical inquiry. Philosophical inquiry attempts to answer the most fundamental questions about a certain topic. It attempts to address informally complex questions by considered reasoning, which appeals to shared ideas and may incorporate empirical evidence, careful argument, analysis, or establishment of distinctions in fact or language. Philosophy hopes to understand man's inner workings, motivations, consciousness, thought, ideology, and all that motivates and justifies behavior. Through this, we can sustain discussions of how philosophical reasoning can actually be put to work in ways directly helpful to understanding life. But today, we'll focus about the concept of pain. What is pain? In science, pain is classified as a bodily sensation. Sharp pain in the back or a paper cut stimulates a neurological signal that tells our brain to react a certain way.
Why does it happen? Said by Joe MacDonald, a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto. Pain is a danger signal. A network of neurons in your brain activates to send a message. Something is very wrong. Pain is really good at disrupting attention and getting you singularly focused on making the bad thing stop.
Learning's always a painful process. Like when you're little and your bones are growing and you ache all over. Like this grinding under the skin. Everything's different now. Like sounds are music that I can understand. Like fluids. It's funny, I used to be so concerned with who I was and what I wanted to be, and now that I have access to the furthest reaches of my brain, I see things clearly and realize that what makes us us, it's primitive. They're all obstacles. Does that make any sense? Like this pain you're experiencing, it's blocking you from understanding. All you know now is pain. That's all you know, pain.
Yet, these sensations are often thought to be logically private and subjective, and the source of incurable knowledge for those who have them. Hence, there appears to be the reasons for both thinking that their pains are physical conditions that we perceive in body parts and for thinking that they are not. This apparent paradox is one of the main reasons why philosophers are especially interested in pain. Most of the time, we classify pain as a physical matter, but on a philosophical level, it is associated with mental and emotional state. The experience of pain has been used by various philosophers to analyze various types of philosophy of mind, such as dualism, identity theory, or functionalism. Studies suggest that when we experience rejection, our brains behave similarly to the way they do when we are in physical pain. David Lewis, in his article Mad Pain and Martian Pain, gives example of various types of pain to support his own flavor of functionalism. He defines mad pain to be a pain which occurs in a madman who has somehow gotten his wires crossed in such a way that pain does not cause him to cry or agonize, but instead he became very concentrated and good at mathematics. To him, pain occupies the same role but has a very different physical realization. Both of these phenomena, Lewis claims, are pain and must be accounted for in any coherent theory of mind.
But which is more painful? There are two classified types of pain. Pain as physical and pain as subjective experience, or much better called as suffering. Physically, people feel pain when specific nerves called nociceptor detect tissue damage and transmit information about the damage along the spinal cord to the brain. Subjectively, suffering is an unpleasant or even anguishing experience which severely affects a person at a psychophysical and an existential level. The pain you feel after a fight with a close friend is quite real, but it's not exactly the same as a physical pain. Even if suffering does not originate from illness or pain, it can make us feel ill and can even cause to develop ailments. Pain can be a source of suffering, but it's not the only one. Social problems like poverty, social exclusion, forceful social inclusion, forced displacement and uprooting, existential and personal problems like grief and stress, conditions like nausea, paresthesia, and non-painful illness, anxiety or fear can likewise be a cause of suffering. Cognitive awareness, interpretation, behavioral disposition, cultural and educational factors influence the perception of pain. After all, people have their different coping mechanisms, both physically and emotionally. How to deal with it? As humans, our natural instincts when we feel pain is that we immediately avoid and find cure to it. But should we be at all times? In Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths comprise the essence of Buddhist teachings. More simply put, suffering exists, it has a cause, it has an end, and it has a cause to bring about its end. The notion of suffering is not intended to convey a negative worldview, but rather a pragmatic perspective that deals with the world as it is and attempts to rectify it. The concept of pleasure is not denied, but acknowledged as fleeting. Pursuit of pleasure can only continue what is ultimately an unquestionable thirst. The same logic belies an understanding of happiness. In the end, only aging, sickness, and death are certain and unavoidable.
Is it vital? Scientifically, the inability to sense physical pain often leads to an accumulation of worse health issues that may go undetected. Therefore, natural responses are necessary for us to protect our mortality. But on the deeper level, as such, why do we experience rejection and loss as literal heartache? The short answer, it helps us survive. Betrayal, grief, and disappointment are only some cases that prove pain as universal to human aspect, rather just physical. Without pain, we would be stagnant in our growth, and we would probably be very apathetic toward others. We could also become more vulnerable, silly, and fearless. If children could not feel pain when they are physically hurt, they might continue being careless. People won't be able to learn from their mistakes. Pain protects us from danger and makes us kinder. Philosophy of pain may be about suffering in general or more specifically about physical pain. The experience of pain is, due to its seeming universality, a very good portal through which to view various aspects of human life. Philosophers think of pain less and less as a paradigmatic instance of mentality. Pain raises specific questions about mentality and consciousness certainly, but also about embodiment, effect, motivation, and value, to name a few. Developments in pain science have prompted philosophers to take account of empirical data and to revisit their assumptions about pain. Pain, in short, demands interdisciplinary investigation. And that's the philosophical take about human pain.